How's everyone doing? Yeah. Thanks for coming out here. So, as Aisha mentioned, I'm up here with my sister Amani, our sister Aisha. We're with a collective called Falastiniyat. We got started because as Palestinian feminists, as Palestinian women, we were often getting pushed to the margins. We were often getting pushed out of spaces for doing the silent work. So we just decided we didn't want to be silent anymore. So that's why we're here. We both have a couple things to say. I'll keep it short. This isn't the first time Seattle's seen a protest against Israeli annexation. I actually grew up alongside marches that list the names of Palestinians who have been murdered by the IDF and villages that have been turned into settlements over the years. At some point, I just learned to hope that it wasn't my family's village that was listed along those settlements, and that it wasn't my family's names that were listed on the screen of the lost. But today, we're all here again. We're not tired. We're not giving up hope, but we are enraged. Are y'all enraged? Because that's why we're here. Today is the day of rage. We're enraged at the continued annexation of Palestine. We're enraged at the continued murders of our black neighbors. We're enraged at the continued theft and dismemberment of Indigenous lands here in Turtle Island and globally. I'm enraged because in 2019, the US gave $3.8 billion in military aid to Israel, but we have the highest rates of coronavirus to date in the world, and that disproportionately affects Black and Indigenous communities, and our government is putting no money into solving this problem. I'm enraged because Israel uses a portion of that $3.8 billion to invent new violence and murder tactics on Palestinians and then sells those tactics to the US police as violence and murder tactics on Black, brown, and poor people. I'm enraged because when our families in exile became displaced into the United States, we adopted some of the same settler practices as our oppressors. I'm enraged because the grocery store that called 911 on George Floyd was owned by a Palestinian immigrant family. And I'm enraged because Derek Chauvin ended George Floyd's life with his knee, and the same murder tactic was used on the neck of a Palestinian. There has never been a more important time than now to commit to an anti-colonial struggle. Palestine will be free. Turtle Island will be free. Indigenous sovereignty globally will be restored. And in order for that to happen, our rage has to be channeled into action. I had an anti-colonial awakening in 2015 when I was restricted from returning to my family's village in the West Bank by the IDF. And you can't see this, but return is in capital because we all have the right to return, and one day we will return. Full day, I was physically and verbally assaulted by Israeli border security, and I couldn't leave because they took my passport, and I couldn't move because they held me at gunpoint for a day. And it'll be another 5 years before I can even try to return again, and I likely won't, knowing that, because after the Naksa, even my grandmother couldn't return. So for those of us in exile waiting to return, we need a dismantling of not just occupied Palestine, but of all borders. We need a dismantling, not just of the IDF and G4S surveillance tactics, but of all forms of policing and surveillance cultures. And we need an overthrow, not just of the settler colonial Zionist state, but of all settler colonial states, including this one. So today we're demanding to defund Seattle PD, to return those funds to the community, to end the deadly exchange between the IDF, or the Israeli military, and Seattle police, to release all arrested protesters, and to end the SPD security contract with G4S. And we're demanding those so that tomorrow, all occupied people can return to our rightful homes. This is our shared intifada. This is our shared intifada.